Hi, I'm Mia Parrish, and today in Devils in the Details, we're talking with a bunch of our faculty about what it's like to be back in campus and on campus this fall. Really excited to have you all join us, and I thought we would just kick off with, we pivoted in the spring. I'm a teacher too, and going to online on the fly was pretty wild and also really successful. What were you teaching and what did that look like? How did that shift go for you?
So I teach music therapy, and when the pandemic hit, we were getting ready to start a 7-week in-person community project with a community partner that we've had for 4 years. And 20 plus of my students and I bombard this facility every Wednesday morning. And so when this shifted and we could no longer go in person, and then they were going to also close their doors and send all their participants home, I was like, oh, what are we going to do for 8 weeks? We can't just read a book. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do virtual. I don't know how to make a YouTube playlist, but I'm going to figure it out. And the students stayed in their groups that they were working with. They developed 10-minute videos that we sent out every week in the playlist. Each week had a theme. Each student had to rotate through a job. So someone was the host, someone was the intervention leader, someone was the script writer, someone gave the tips at the end, someone had to edit all the videos together. They did not have video editing experience before. They figured it out, they worked together, and then that worked really well for us as we pivoted into summer school and we got to do live video sessions. So taking the things that we learned in spring, taking it to summer, and now I'm going to use that in fall classes where half of us are in the room, half of us are online. That's what a lot of our clients are going to be looking like. How do we still figure out how to make music and do music therapy interventions and work on health related things?
Right. Kind of crazy. Fida, how about you?
My biggest challenge was to keep the interactions that happened among my students in the classroom when they were working in groups. And then I found breakout rooms in Zoom to work amazingly well. So I tried that, and my students were communicating. They were sharing their screens, their ideas, their thoughts. They worked and solved on the problems in a very productive manner, and the interactions just moved from the classroom into the virtual environment. And I think that was amazing to see.
It was really surprising. How about you, Joe?
Well, mine was a little different, my experience, and I say this by kudos to ASU saying that they're number one in innovation, because I've been a full-time faculty member since 2008, but 2 years ago, I went full-time online. So I've been doing the online teaching for a full 2 years prior to this pandemic. So I say that because we were way ahead of the curve, and I can thank ASU and the powers that be for making that happen in the first place. It was sort of ironic because everyone kind of came to me as this so-called expert of being an online instructor, and I was able to help my colleagues get up and running in a pretty quick way. But this wasn't new for me, and that's because of the innovation that ASU puts forth.
Right. I mean, we're obviously in a really different space forever. And Ted, what does that look like for you?
Well, I actually wanted to sort of piggyback on those things, because I know when I started in the spring, it was a little nervous on how things would look. And at that moment, I was just looking for a way to make things as seamless as possible as students are going from an in-person experience to the synchronous online experience with me. And we had to get through a couple of technical hiccups, but once we got there, then I found out at first that I could deliver. I felt like I could get the same level of interaction I got with my students, capitalizing on the chat and in the breakout rooms. As already has been mentioned, they interact very personally with their video on inside the breakout rooms, but when they come back, if there's the right culture for it, they really get along with the chat very well. And then what I found is that I can actually, connect and extend beyond what I could actually do in the classroom. So I know a lot of my colleagues, when they heard about us going online, were worried because they maybe had not taught an asynchronous online class, and they knew that the asynchronous pedagogy looked very different than the synchronous pedagogy. And I think what we're doing at ASU is we're innovating even beyond what we've done with ASU Online, is that we're learning that there's actually new spaces and new niches in synchronous online teaching that allow us to maybe do things that we never thought were possible in the classroom that we can now do. I feel like my synchronous pedagogy is so much better now that I have these online tools.
Yeah, it's a really interesting piece of it, and I think a lot of people carried that into the summer as well. I'm going to pick on Christina and Brett because I know they've been there in the summer. And what have you all learned over the summer that helps you moving forward? And let's start with Brett.
It's interesting. I mean, what Christina and I are both part of our Cronkite News operation here at the Cronkite School. We have students typically producing a newscast every day out of our studio up on the 6th floor here, and producing digital stories, and it's a hands-on experience. Go out in the field, talk to people, and such. We obviously had to change that, and particularly with the summer being fully online. But our students adjusted so well, and they wound up. Zoom wasn't just a teaching tool for us, but Zoom was a reporting tool for our students. And so, conducting a lot of interviews for their stories, and attending remote press conferences that way and stuff. And also, a lot of the folks we report on, I oversee our sports content, did a really wonderful job of enabling that, whether it be the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, the Suns, the Mercury, the Rising, etc. Arranging media availability. So it was really wonderful for our really wonderful experience for our students that I think will benefit them when they are able to go back into the field.
Yeah, silver lining for sure. How about you, Christina?
And we just had a retreat about this yesterday where we were talking about sort of the tips and tricks that we learned over spring and summer and as we prepare for fall. And a lot of it was, we picked up a lot of new skills in terms of innovation, and the students who we are preparing to go out in the field, they were really, surprisingly, really, really grateful for this experience as much as they could be, because those are the types of newsrooms they're going into now, going into remote experiences. The other thing I would say is just talking about the technology. It did allow us to just try new things because we were forced to. Different methods of delivery, different ways to produce, audio, video, all the new things. So it was, gosh, I hesitate to use the word fun because it was certainly a challenge. But I think, just reading the student reviews after we were done, they were really grateful. And I think they showed, we can overcome and do amazing work. And we're really proud of the products.
Right.
Let me just add one thing on top of what Christina said. And I was just looking around the screen here and trying to find the note I got from a student who, when she was doing her self-assessment at the end, said she actually, she learned more remote than in the classroom setting, because this was a student who does video productions, video storytelling. And she said, for me, going out and filming video, I realized it's a crutch. It can be a crutch. This allowed me to focus on my writing, and I really grew more from learning in this environment, which really, frankly, made me feel very good. At the end.
Right. Jennifer, you had something to add as well.
Yes, so I teach cell biology labs at the West Campus, and we had some unique challenges going into that. How do we put this all these hands-on activities online in a virtual environment? And in the spring, I found myself scrambling to find all of these different virtual labs and try to plug those into what we already had. The students were very patient with me in figuring out what worked and what didn't. They shared their tips with me, which was really helpful. And I think overall it was a general success. But over the summer, I've really learned how to take bits and pieces of those virtual labs and better integrate it into the course plan that I want to put on, instead of being so beholden to what those virtual labs are putting out there. I'm able to actually take bits and pieces and incorporate them into my own learning objectives.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anna, how about you?
What it forced us to do is really sit down as, thinking about majors biology for the first year, but then also discussing this with upper level instructors like Jennifer, teaching upper level science courses, and really for the first time sitting down and saying, as far as lab goes, what do these students really need to know. And all of us really kind of came to the conclusion that really when it comes down to it, for my class, for freshman biology, we need these students to be able to think scientifically more than we need them to understand how to use a microscope or use a pipette.
Francisco, what's your fall looking like? Are you excited? Anxious?
So I'm happy with what's going to happen in the fall. I have, in addition to the lecture I'm teaching, I'm coordinating a lab, and essentially what this means is that I'm creating all new material for the lab, which I had the opportunity to test over the summer. And this is the introductory physics lab. And what is really interesting and new to me, and I was very happy to be able to implement it, is that it's a mix. So we do use a little bit of simulation, but mostly we are asking students to use digital tools and real objects that they can find at home. So most of the content of our physics curriculum for that class really can be done at home. And it's nicer when you have better equipment and smooth surfaces, but you can start working with building a pendulum, doing a small collisions, rolling balls in a incline, and then actually analyzing on essentially on real time and collaborating with other students. So particularly that, I'm very happy that we are able to implement it, and it's actually a very different experience from what they have in the lab, but at the same time, I think it actually adds value that they start from scratch. Students start from scratch, and they start from everyday materials, some digital tools, and they end up with a complete experiment that they have carry out by the end of the session. So that's very exciting.
So what are your emotions? Anyone? Are you excited, happy? Fida, what's your...
Well, I want to say that with all the technology that ASU has made available for faculty and with the support of the University Technology Office and the instructional designers at ASU, I feel extremely confident that we will deliver high quality courses and help our students be successful and have the best possible experience through ASU Sync this fall semester. I want to say that my colleagues and I have been attending numerous workshops starting in March. We've just been in professional development mode, if you want to say. We've attended orientations and workshops, whether they have been 1 hour orientation, a 12-day ASU Sync workshop, and this has let us know the incredible technology that is out there for us, and we could choose what technology works best for our course. So I'm very excited.
That's great. Zach and then Melita.
Well, as usual, like I'm excited and nervous for the start of the semester and trying to get everything, ready. And kind of to piggyback on things that Ted and Joseph commented on, I think that the fact that ASU was already investing so heavily in online education, it gave us a leg up. And I feel in my department and the university Ed Plus, like they've been so helpful to me. And also I say with a certain amount of pride that some of the things that ASU in my department, the School of Life Sciences, like they kind of spearheaded this testing. Basically, we have contact tracing and testing homegrown. And so ASU is really doing that, trying to keep the students safe. But going forward, we're thinking of the students' health first, and that we're going to do our very best to get back there in person with them and provide them that human contact as soon as possible. And for me, I'm just really going to try to be doubling down on empathy, for me and for myself first, and also for my colleagues and especially for my students.
Right. Melita, you were...
Yeah, it goes kind of along the lines with what Zach was saying. In that empathy space, I found myself being very vulnerable with my students this summer as I was teaching summer school, and George Floyd happened, and losing a colleague. I was like, okay, I can't pretend that I'm okay in this moment, so I'm gonna have to tell you, I need to pause. I can't write you any more assignments. I need to deal with my human self, and then telling the students, and if you need to pause, you need to tell me. And that was this really beautiful space that we began to be vulnerable, because we are human and we're all living in this space. And so that allows me to feel freedom. As I'm putting my syllabus together, at first I started like, I don't know what my cart looks like in my room. And I was like, okay, really? Like, back off. I can build that into the class. We're going to explore it together. I can't control that, which is like what I normally try to do before the semester. And then I decided today that I'm going to approach everything with curiosity. Curiosity. How does this work? How does this not work? Right? Because it gives myself that permission that I get to be present in this moment.
That's fantastic. And Jean, you were raising your hand too.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that, looking at this fall is very important for ASU faculty to be nimble. We are looking at wonderful things that ASU is doing to keep our students safe, but at the same time, I teach film and media production, both on a larger scale for capstone films, where there's like 10, 12, 14 students going and shooting a narrative film, versus a student and maybe two other students on his crew going out to shoot. And the difficulty is we want to make sure that we keep them safe and that they can still get things done. We had 16 films to shoot this spring, and we shot 3 of them. And this fall, we're going to shoot the other 13 and 20 more films. The difficulty is making sure that students are safe and that they're following the right protocol. So we've established our own film safety protocol, making sure that we have all the PPE and everything else that students need, building that into their budget, and making sure that they can shoot safely, get their projects done. And that says a whole lot for, I think, the film school here, as well as ASU overall, in faculty that are able to be nimble and work with students who are at various levels of comfort with going out and shooting their own films and providing alternative assignments and innovative ways to teach.
That's great. So kind of rapid fire round of for everyone. What, in a word or 2 or 3, what's your hope for your students this fall? Anna, let's start with you.
Number 1, safety. I want them to all be safe and healthy. Number 2, I want them to be confident that they're going to have a learning experience that is not the same but better than it would be otherwise. And number 3, that, as everybody else said, that we are thinking empathy forward. So students and faculty alike, just realizing we're a community and we're all here for each other.
That's great. Christina, how about you?
I think similar lines, safety first, right? We want them to be healthy. I also, the same, want them to feel supported, that we are there for them. We're going to get through all of this together. And I would say inspiration is a big thing too. I want them to come out of our program inspired that they can do this and we can continue to do great things.
Fantastic. And Brett?
Starting tomorrow, actually, I begin teaching our master's boot camp. So our students are, kind of just getting in fresh. And it's really exciting on both ends to really help them build excitement for the subject matter. I agree with everything else in health, and then on top of that, just getting them, and look at those master students, like getting them to cultivate that passion for what they've chosen to do and carry it forward.
I want the students to be safe, and I want them to have success, but I also want them to have fun. At the end of the day, learning still should be fun, and we shouldn't lose sight of that despite the differences in modes of learning or the pandemic or whatever it might be. So I definitely want them to enjoy themselves.
That's great. Jean, how about you?
Well, I would agree, and I would say that what's really important, not just safety, of course, but making sure that they're able to make connections, whether they're right in the same room with each other or states away, making sure that they can share and do artistic work that can bring each other together is really a great thing to be able to do, whether we're online or in person.
That's great. Francisco,
I
what are your hopes?
I hope that this pandemic situation actually brings up some new things for our students that they finally, to some extent, just forced by the situation, they realize this goal that always have, that they create this synthesis of their college experience. So I want them to come out of this this period better citizens.
That's wonderful. Melita?
I think I want the students to feel like they don't have to ask for permission, that permission lies within themselves. So permission to be well, permission to have community and build community, permission to be empowered in their learning experience, and permission to have joy, right? Just like along with having fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. Ted, how about you?
I'm hoping that, especially for the students that are experimenting with this Sync platform that they may not be as familiar with, just view it really as an empathetic platform and a humanizing platform. Is as surprising as that might be, is that when I'm in these classes with them, I feel very much the same way as I'm in conferences with colleagues, and I view my students as peers, where they just happen to be in a slightly different role as me. And I really enjoy when they engage in discussion, when they push back a little bit, when they feel free to share. And that's one of the weird things about this Sync, is that I feel like I've had students that feel more like that in the spring, and I'm really hoping that I see even more of that in the fall.
Zach, how about you?
I guess I'm hoping my students can come out of it with a feeling stronger for the experience. You know, it's like we're living with Spanish influenza and the Great Depression all at the same time. And I'm going to admit to them that I feel raw. You know, we had George Floyd, we have a presidential election. My emotions are raw, and I'm going to tell them it's okay to feel that way.
Well, Jennifer, how about you?
I really have to mirror that. I want my students to come out of this semester feeling that they can overcome anything that's thrown at them. Despite all of these hurdles and these rapid changes, I want them to know that they're doing it, they're pushing through, and that they're able to succeed no matter what is thrown at them.
Vita, how about you?
So I really want my students to learn from this, that they can overcome any situation in life with positivity and hard work and using the resources around them.
So thank you all so much for being with me today on Devils in the Details. Hearing words like inspired and fun and joyous and curious, I'm inspired and humbled by all that you're doing. And I want to say thank you to all of you for what you're doing for our students and our community and what you'll do ahead. So, and thank you for being here with us this week.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.